Hello everybody, Daniel Rothamel here once again, and today I can welcome you to my new DevOps lair. There's bookcases over there you can't see. So I'm not in my master bedroom anymore, so that's cool. My wife and I redid this room here to turn it into a little bit better home office space for us, so I can do these from here from now on. For today's screencast, we're going to do my latest Level Up in Tech project, which is all about Docker, the container service. So for this project, we're going to do something that seems really simple, but was a little more complicated than I expected. We're going to launch an instance of NGINX using a custom HTML page. And on that custom HTML page, we're going to display the start time of the container itself. And then we're going to take that, we're going to build a custom image out of it, and we're going to register it with Amazon ECR, the Elastic Container Registry. So in order to do that, in order to do all this, obviously you're going to need a Docker account, and you're going to need an AWS account, and you're going to need your Docker installed on your command line, the Docker CLI, and you're going to need the AWS CLI configured also. I'll mention that when we get to the steps, but those are all the things you're going to need. And so let me show you how I went about doing this. Okay, so first I'm going to go through sort of the manual way this would show up, and then we'll automate it to a degree. So the first thing here is I'm on the, let me move my face out of the way. So I'm on the command line here, and I'm in the folder where I have my custom HTML where I've done everything, and I have the commands in another file here, and then also a lot of these I got from, for example, using Docker has great documentation on using the official NGINX Docker Image. So let's go back to the terminal. So if we want to launch a container that has NGINX in it, you just do Docker run NGINX if you want it. That'd be the simple way to do it. But we're going to map ports and, so we can access the HTML page and all that. But that's how you would just start. You would start, actually, let's just do it. Docker run detached mode P. We're going to map the ports. 80 is Docker's default listening port, so we'll map it to 8080 locally. And we'll name it real quick. NGINX, and then NGINX. Okay. So when we do that, it starts the container. So now if I go to my localhost 8080, see, we can see the default page, right? But we want to do it with custom HTML. So first, let's delete this container. For some reason, it's been taking there's been a little delay in stopping my containers. It'll do it eventually. So there we go. We're going to stop this container, and we're going to remove this container. All right, so we want to do it with a custom HTML. So here's the custom index.html that I've created. So you can see here, what we have is an HTML document, and I put on here, welcome to an NGINX page in a Docker container. And this is the current date and time for whenever you view the page. Then, so right here. So then I have this NGINX Docker container was created by Daniel Rothamel. The container image was created at, and this is where we'll display the container start time. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But first, we need to get this page displayed on our local port 8080 when we access NGINX. So the way we do that is Docker, is showing you that the documentation there, how to use the official NGINX image, and they have the command that you need, right? So I took that and modified it for our use, and so here it is. So we're going to take this command, and I'll explain it once I copy it. All right. So we put it in here, and so here's the command. So we have Docker run detached mode. We're going to map the ports 8080 to 80, and then we're going to use V for the file. So the file that we want to use is in the present working directory. So there's the variable present working directory. So here's the present working directory. This is the directory we're in. I've already saved the index.html in there. And then we're going to replace, or we're going to put that file here. This is the folder where NGINX looks for the index.html file. And then we're going to name the container again NGINX, and the image we're using is NGINX. So when we do that, now when we go look at, when we go to our local port 8080, now we get this because this is the HTML we created. So here you can see, here's an NGINX page in a Docker container. The date and time that I'm doing this. The Docker container was created by me, and the container image was created at, and we need this information. So how do we get that information? So we need to know the container start time. Well, in order to do that, we have to use another command. So the container, the way we get container start time is by using the Docker inspect command. And what Docker inspect lets us do is Docker inspect lets us inspect a particular container for various data points, one of which is the container start time. So this command will allow us to get that. So here's Docker inspect, and this is TAC F for format. This is the information we're looking for, when the container was started, and the container name NGINX, and then we're going to pipe that into, or we're going to append that into our index.html file, because we're still in the directory, right? So that's where it's going to go. So when I run that, actually, you know what? First, let me show you what the output is. So we'll take this away. And you can see this is the output. So in UTC time, it has when the container started. Now, if I run that command again, and I append that, into the index.html, all right, now when we go back to our page, we should see, there it is. There's the start time in the page. So now we've been able to display the custom HTML with the container start time. But that's only part of what we were supposed to do. What I was also supposed to do was create a custom image out of this and then upload that to the ECR. Now the only hang up is that when you so how do we create a custom image, right? We use a Dockerfile. So here's the Dockerfile that I built, that I created. It's pretty simple. So if you know anything about Dockerfiles, you know you have to start with from and whatever image we're going to use. So you can see VS Code tells us here, set the base image for the subsequent instructions. So from the NGINX image, the latest version, we're going to copy in the directory that we're in, the index.html, which was that custom index.html that we created, and we're going to copy it to this, which is where NGINX looks for the index.html. Then in that directory, so we use workdir to set the working directory for any other subsequent commands. So you notice this is where we need to be, right here. So there it is. So in that working directory, we're then going to run a command to give the date and time that this image is being created. Because when we run docker build to create the image, it's going to run this command. And we're going to take that time and we're going to, again, append it into the index.html. So the command to do that, to build our Docker image, is right here, right? So now, I don't know, you might be able to hear my kids outside the door there. They're home from school, had to quarantine again. It's crazy out there, people. Be safe. But ignore them. That's what I do. All right, so here is the command to build our custom NGINX image. So docker build tac-t, and then we're going to name it my NGINX, and then we use the dot. You can't forget this dot. The dot to say that the Docker file we need is where we are right now. That's what that dot is signifying, that the Docker file that Docker is going to look for is in the present working directory. So when we do that, it's going to build our Docker image. So now what we can do is we can run our custom NGINX image and get that and see that information. So in order to do that, we'll go back to the commands and we'll take this command. This is going to be our command to run the image that we just created. So you can see everything built successfully. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run in detached mode. I'm going to map the port again, 8080 to 80. I'm going to name this my NGINX. Actually, you know what? First, let me show you that it actually created the image successfully. Because obviously, if it didn't create the image successfully, we're going to run into a problem, aren't we? Hold on. Let's take all this out. Okay. So we go to oh man, if I could type. Docker images, and we see the first image is the one we just built, right? So there it is. Okay, so now we can run this command, and we can do Docker run in detached mode, map the ports. We're going to name it my NGINX, and the image we're using is my NGINX. That's right here, the one that we just created. So when we run that, oh, we didn't stop the other one. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, Docker RM. Whoop. There we go. Now we're going to make sure we don't have any containers running. Let's delete that one. We'll do this all over again. Okay, so now we don't have any containers running. Let's try this again. There we go. Because what that error was telling us was that we'd already mapped that port. You can't map the port again. Okay, the port was being used. Now we can run the custom image. We can run a container from our custom image there. Okay, there we go. So now if we go back to our local port, so you can see this was the time that our original container was created. This is going to be the time that when I refresh this, it's going to be the time that our custom image was created. Oh, and it kept the other one in there because I forgot to delete it. But you get the idea. So here's this is now the time, the subsequent time that the container, that the image was created. Okay. Now, what do we do with this, right? So we have to now, let's stop it. Hold on. We're going to stop the container, and then we're going to delete the container so we don't leave it running. I mean, not that it costs anything, but it's just nice to keep things clean because we actually don't need it running. Okay. So now if we see, we don't have any containers running. And our image is still there. There it is at the top, right there. Okay, so now the next portion of the project is to register this container on ECR on AWS. So how do you do that? Well, luckily, AWS has a lot of great documentation on that. Now, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to need, so, you know, in previous screencasts, I've said we want to try and do this the way it would be done in the real world as much as possible, which means staying out of the AWS console. It means that we need to, as much as possible, use the command line. So that's what we're going to do here, same way. So we need all the commands in order to do everything we want to do from the AWS CLI. So you have to have an AWS account, you have to have your CLI properly installed and properly configured. The one key piece of information you're going to need in order to do these commands is the ID number of your AWS account. So the command to do that is right here. AWS STS get caller identity. So if we go back to the terminal and we put that in, we get the my account information. So there's the account number and all that. Now, The reason why we need this is because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to, if we go back to our documentation for ECR, the first thing we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to create a repository on ECR into which we can put our custom NGINX image. So this is the command to do that. So we'll go back to where I have this. Oh, actually, you know what? First, let's authenticate Docker. I forgot. That's what we have to do first. First, we've got to authenticate Docker so that we can use Docker with the with AWS CLI. So here is the command to do that. So let's do that first. We have to get a login to authenticate it, and these aren't permanent. They're only good, apparently. The tokens are only good for 12 hours. So you got to do it every time. I mean, unless you do it a bunch of times in a 12-hour period. So we need to put this command in first. We need to customize it just a little bit. So we need to put the region in here, US East 1, because that's where I'm at. And this is where we need our AWS account ID right here. So we take this number, we put it there, and then we also have to go back to here and put in US East 1. Okay. Now let me just make sure I've got all this correct. Yeah, okay, that looks good. We just have to, those were the three things that we had to customize. So we go back, we will run this command, and login succeeded. Okay, so now our Docker is authenticated with ECR. Now we can create our container, although you could do this without logging in, but now we're gonna go ahead and create our container. So in order to create a container, we're going to use, or I'm sorry, a repository, not a container. In order to create a repository on ECR, we're going to use this command. So let's plug this in and I'll explain it. So here is the AWS CLI command for creating a repository. So we got AWS ECR, because that's what we're using, ECR, create repository, and now we got to name the repository name, my NGINX. So when we do that, this is the information we're going to get. So we get this little JSON here that has the ID, which we're going to need in a second, and the name of the repository and other information. Okay, so we're going to need to use that information in just a second, because next what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take our image, and then we're going to have to tag our image, and then we're going to have to push our image. All right, so here's how we do that. Oh, so in order to do that, first we're going to go back to Docker images so we can get our image ID. We have all that information. Okay, so here's what we do. Let's clear this up. All right, so we'll go back and let's get the command that we need here to tag our image so that we can push it up to our ECR. So we're going to copy this command and we're going to put it in. And now we need to go back. Okay, so there's some things we need to do to customize this. So first here we're saying Docker tag this image. So what we need here is our image ID for that image that we just created for the my NGINX image. So we'll go back up. Here it is right here. We're going to take this and we're going to copy that in there. And then we need our account ID again, because we need that. So let's see our account ID. Go back up and get that. Okay, and then region again. Whoop, US East 1. And then the repository that we named before, which we called my NGINX. So we're going to go to the repository. We're going to change the repository name. Okay, and then tag, and that'll tag it latest. That'll leave the tag latest. If we leave it empty, it'll just be the latest version, which is fine for us. So let's do that. Okay, so we've done that. Now, if we go to Docker images, we can see it has that tag, which is good because we're going to need that, or Amazon's going to need, AWS is going to need that in order to do this. So now this is the command to push our image up to ECR. So now we take this command and plug it in, and we got to go through, we'll go through this again. So the repository is my NGINX, and we're going to get our account ID, which was right here. All right. So basically what AWS is doing is AWS is looking for that tag that we created on the image, and then it's going to take that and it's going to push it up to ECR. So when we do that, well, that's weird. Oh, no, I see what I did there. I didn't change the region. So, oh yeah, I did. Oh no, I didn't. So we got to run this. Let's run the Docker push command again. Let's copy this, and we're gonna have to. You see, region, I didn't change. I needed to change that. So we'll do this again, and change the region back. There we go. Now let's do it. There we go. Now it's building that image. So it takes a little bit longer than when we do it locally with Docker, obviously. But once this is complete, there we go. We will have successfully pushed our custom NGINX image into ECR. And the way we can see that is we can go to ECR, and we can go to our repositories, and we see there's the repository that we created. And if we go into the repository, we can see the image. And the image tag is just tagged because we left it empty. Now, we could take that image down and use it. We could pull that image down and we could use it wherever we are. So it's pretty cool because that custom image displays, if you remember, we go back, it displays the time that our container was created there and the local time. So that's how you do it. Those are all the steps you can go through to create a custom HTML page that you can display on NGINX in a Docker container. Then you can build a custom image out of that, and you can upload it to Amazon Web Services, ECR. Then you can pull that image down to wherever you are in the entire world. So that's pretty cool. So I learned a lot doing this project because there was a bunch of stuff I had to figure out that I struggled with. Getting that command to get the container start time, and figuring out how to get it into the HTML, and also discovering that there really is no way to use that command to when you build a Docker image. So having to use an alternate, which is the starting of the creation of the image. So there was a lot of stuff that I worked through, and with some help from my teammates at Level Up in Tech and some other folks on Reddit and elsewhere. So it was a lot of fun. I really learned a lot. I'm really enjoying Docker. So that's all for this screencast. Remember you can subscribe on YouTube, catch me on LinkedIn, on Medium, and on GitHub. And until next time, everybody take it easy.